There are lots being said about slow learners and fast learners. The slow learners, if they can put that extra bit of an effort and commit themselves with quality time spent on learning, can learn on par with the fast learners. In the process of learning, it is essential to acquaint the students about the importance of what exactly is mindset. In this context, we urge you to read a wonderful book titled The Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. There's another book written by Carol Dweck. The title of the book itself is Mindset. Now, what we'll do is we'll spend some time in getting ourselves acquainted with the synoptic view of what Carol Dweck says people can be divided into two classes as to the ones with fixed mindset and the ones with growth mindset. What Carol Dweck from the Stanford University says is there are people who are called as fixed mindset. Now, let's spend a little time in understanding the nature, the characteristic of people who have a fixed mindset. People with fixed mindset, whenever they see challenges. Now, let's go about understanding challenges. Challenges are things which are within ourselves. So, when we see challenges that are there, we go about saying that it's not my cup of tea, this is certain thing that I can't do it, and they don't go about with working themselves on challenges. Now, obstacles are things which come from external to us, and they give up, they wilt very easily whenever they go about with saying obstacles there. When it comes to the word effort from one who is a fixed mindset guy or a girl, what happens is they believe that effort is meaningless. Why do I have to work? What do I get in return by putting all the hard work around there? Another useful element, in the previous lesson we have said this criticism word is of two types. It's to do with constructive criticism and destructive criticism. Now, what happens to fixed mindset people is when you give them useful negative criticism. Let me put it again, underline these words. It says that useful negative criticism. What it actually means is you are giving them constructive criticism, but they don't take it. They don't accept it. They don't believe in taking it on the face of it. And when they see others succeeding in front of them, they feel jealous. They find reasons to go about with offsetting the reasons why they have made it. And these kind of people with fixed mindset, they have a very narrow perspective about themselves, their self-image, their self-esteem, and happens that their life cycle goes about with plateauing early. In contrast, in comparison to the fixed mindset, what Carol Dweck says is there's another category of people who are with what is called as the growth mindset. And here we got to go about the understanding that the people with growth mindset embrace challenges. They persist in the face of setbacks. Now, they believe that setbacks are temporary. They are not permanent. They go about with fighting with it. They see that effort they put is not waste, it's not futile, and they believe that effort is a path to mastery. And they always take criticism in a constructive way. They learn from criticism. When someone is advancing, when someone makes it big in life, they don't feel jealous about it. Instead, they find lessons and inspiration in success of others there. Now, what we'd go about we're doing is we have to find it that in the world, people are not 100% fixed mindset, 100% growth mindset. But the thing that we go about with looking at is it can be, research that is done by Carol Dweck proves that people can be shifted from the fixed mindset to growth mindset, and that is a huge challenge to the teaching community. And if you can do it, believe me, half the battle is won. Now, let's move to another concept as a part of this session, which is to do with constructivism. Now, during the 1930s and 1940s, constructivism was a leading perspective among the public school educators in the United States of America. In theory, the emphasis is placed on student rather than on the teacher. Teachers are seen as facilitators or coaches who assist students construct their own conceptualizations and solutions to problems. There are a lot of definitions that people give to the word education. Now, it has got a Greek origin which says about drawing out of an individual rather than dumping into the individual. The word education comes from a Greek word educatere, which means you draw out of an individual. Let's give some examples. Now, let's understand what Swami Vivekananda had to tell about education. He said it is manifestation of things which are already existing in man. Let's take an example which is very rudimentary. Just look at what had happened to Sir Isaac Newton when he was sitting under the tree. When the apple strikes on his head, then he, probably in the hurt which had gone on his head there, he goes about with questioning and reasoning as to why the apple didn't go up and why it had come down. Now, in the process, with enough research and critical thinking, he comes out with an answer. When he would have plainly asked somebody in those days why things fall to the ground and why don't they go up, people would have just told him that it is just the way the nature is, and they would have just laughed at him. But he didn't give up. He went about it working. Now look at this. Today, when we go about with teaching students in the school as to what is gravity, as to what is acceleration due to gravity, force, 9.8 meters per second square and other things there, we learn these things from the books and we teach it to the students. Now this is what is called as the outside in approach. Now when Newton was trying to find out or figure out what exactly is the force which is drawing things to the center of the earth there, the books didn't disseminate or speak about the word gravity, right? So the thing is, it was his reasoning which has brought this knowledge out. So we talk about what is called as an inside out approach. Now what we normally do is, it is the outside in approach, but if we can go about with giving a feel while teaching and make students critical about their thinking and analytical skills there, we can really go about with fostering this ability of what is called as the inside out approach. And that is the real essence of education, or the meaning of the word educatere, which is to go about with drawing out of an individual. So in this context, when it comes to constructivism, the main idea underpinning constructivism is learning theories are not new. They began with the insights of the great philosopher Socrates, who claimed that there are basic conditions for learning that are in the cognition of an individual. But it was Piaget's theory of intellectual growth that had the primary influence on the development of current position. Specifically, Piaget first emphasized the processes of conceptual change as interactions between existing cognitive structures and new experiences. Within this theory falls two schools of thought: social constructivism and cognitive constructivism. Now there is a Russian scientist by name Lev Vygotsky. The Russian psychologist and philosopher in the 1930s is most often associated with the social constructivist theory. He emphasizes the influences of cultural and social contexts in learning and supports a discovery model of learning. This type of model places the teacher in an active role while the student's mental abilities develop naturally through various paths of discovery. The next one is the cognitive constructivism, is based on the work given by Jean Piaget. His theory has two main parts: age and stage component that predicts what children can and cannot understand at different ages, and the theory of development that describes how learners develop cognitive abilities. Now Piaget's theory of cognitive development proposes that humans cannot be given information in which they immediately understand and use. Instead, learners must construct their own knowledge. They build their knowledge through experience. Experiences enable them to create schemes, mental models of the world. These schemes are changed, enlarged, and made more sophisticated through two complementary processes, that is assimilation and accommodation. Cognitive constructivism is based on different senses of construction. First, on the idea that people learn by actively constructing new knowledge, not by having information poured into their heads. Moreover, constructivism asserts that people learn with particular effectiveness when they are engaged in constructing personally meaningful artifacts. Example, it could be computer programming, it could be animations. The three main cognitive theories are Piaget's cognitive development theory, then Lev Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory, and information processing theory. Now Piaget's theory states that children construct their understanding of the world and go through 4 stages of cognitive development. Constructive and social constructivism in the classroom is what we'll emphasize now. In the constructive classroom, the focus tends to shift from the teacher to the students. The classroom is no longer a place where the teacher, who's so-called expert, pours knowledge into passive students who waits like empty vessels to be filled. In a constructivist model, the students are urged to be actively involved in their process of learning. In the constructivist classroom, both the teacher and the student think of knowledge as a dynamic, ever-changing view of the world we live, and in the ability that successfully stretches and explores that the world, not an inert facts to be memorized. Now, the key assumptions of this perspective include what the students currently believes, whether correct or incorrect, is it important? Despite having the same learning experience, each individual will base their learning on the understanding and meaning which is personal to them. Understanding or constructing a meaning is an active and a continuous process. Learning may involve some conceptual changes. When students construct meaning, they may not believe it, but may give it provisional acceptance or even rejection. Learning is an active, not a passive process, and depends on the students taking responsibility to learn. The main activity in the constructivist classroom is solving problems. Students use inquiry method to ask questions, investigate a topic, and use a variety of resources to find solutions and answers. As students explore the topic, they draw conclusions, and exploration continues. They revisit this conclusion.